Hello everyone, welcome back to Game Brigade. My name is Brian, and today we're going to be diving into Guardians of Atlantis II by Wolfa Design. This is going to be showing up on GameFound very soon, if not already by the time this review goes up. And I wanted to talk about my experience with this game and give you my in-depth review. We're going to be covering the systems of this game, teaching you how it plays. It's a very easy teach, but I'm also going to go dive deeper into some of those mechanics and giving you my pros and cons of what I liked and didn't like about this game, so you can make the best back in the decision if this game might be for you when it comes to looking at GameFound. So if that sounds interesting to you, please stay tuned for the whole rest of the video. If you want to support the channel, remember to subscribe and hit that thumbs up button. Let's go. Okay, so as I said, I got Guardians set up here, and we are going guards. I say Guardians almost every time. I don't know why. Guards Alliance. So we got it set up here. I don't have all the characters, but just to give a reference of what it looks like, we've got my opponent and me over here. Guards of Atlantis II is a MOBA style battling system, which is zero luck. You're going to hear nearly every reviewer say that. But what does it mean? What are you looking for at this game? When we're talking about MOBA style games, that means it's going to be based on the tower defense system, where each team is going to have a base that they're spawning from, and you're going to be moving down lanes to defeat your opponents. And usually there's a minion, which are these little NPC characters that are available that are either helping push the lane to your opponent's base or to your base. That is a very high level scope of it. That's what we're looking at here, and we're talking about lanes. This is the base map. There is an alternate side which has 3 lanes. This only has 1 lane, but it does include a jungle side here on the edges of the board. The players are going to be moving into these combat zones, and they're going to be either fighting each other or defeating the minions. If there is a difference in minions at the end of a full round, then the minions will start killing each other as well. That only occurs, though, if there is a difference between the counts and the minions. So right now they are even. Players are going to have a hand of cards. These cards are able to be leveled up. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But everyone has the same amount of cards and the same quantity type of cards. So you all have, we have green, blue, and red cards, which do movement, defense, and attack generally, but things can change. And then you all have a gray skill, and then your gold skill, which is a more unique skill to your character. These all have different abilities, and this is the point where people talk about the no luck, where it's all skill, because based on the decisions that you make, the cards you play at that given moment, based on the capabilities of what your opponents can do, there's no randomness. It's going to do exactly what the cards say. So how does that work? Well, I'm going to show you what it would look like if I was playing a game over here. I would play a card face down. My opponent would also be doing the same thing, playing a card face down. Once all players have played their cards face down, everything is revealed at the same time. Now, this is an important thing to talk about too at this point, because before, when we're all laying our cards down, you are freely able to talk to your allies here, the people you're playing with, but you have to speak in a manner that your opponents can hear you. So you can't whisper, you can't mumble or anything like that. But once the cards are laid and flipped, you no longer can ask for assistance from your allies. This is your decision making based on what happens. This game uses an initiative system based on the speed of the cards played. So in this situation, Brogan Destroyer played an 11, and Zargath actually played a 1. 1 is the slowest type of card you can play, going higher. So 11 is obviously much faster than a 1 in this situation. So Brogan would activate first, utilizing the ability. Now, these cards have 2 different types of abilities that you can use them for. You can use them, actually technically 3, but one's a minor. You can use them for defense if you want to discard a card to protect yourself from an attack. That is one of the options, so that's the alternate way. Or you can use it for its secondary action or its primary action. When I say secondary, which means this card here has a shield, that's the discard if you want to discard it, has 1 boot, so I can use it to move 1. Or I can do its printed attack, which is a basic attack dealing 3 damage. You would then read the text. It's very important to note in this game that you have those 2 different sections. These do not combine. They're not done together. So you're either doing the printed text on the bottom, or you're doing one of the things up here in this banner. So in this situation, Brogan would do his thing, and then after everyone is done, most likely Zargath here would be last, and then she would do her thing. And after that, both cards stay in their turn 1, and they remain there, and then we begin turn 2. Now you look at your 4-card hand. You're going to then play another card from your hand face down, etc. Once you enter the turn 4, return all your cards back to your hand. The scope of the game, what you're trying to do is obviously defeat your opponents, because that's one way to get money. It also takes off life totals off of their tower, their base. If you defeat all 4 health totals, you automatically beat them, so you could go after your opponents. Or you want to try to push the lane to your opponent's tower. So in that case, we'd want to kill some of these minions, and then when it ended the round, we would count to see what's the difference in these minions. It would be currently 2, because we've got 2 blue guys dead here. That would kill 2 more minions, creating a cascading effect that would eventually push to the end. But what happens when that push happens? These minions will actually just repopulate and spawn in this new zone down here. And then if the team that's the orange team, my team here, does the same thing, defeating enough minions and it pushes to the base, that is the other way that you can win. There's a third victory condition as well, which is timing based on the amount of lane pushes that occur. So let's say I push to you, you push back, and I push back. That third turn, when these tokens flip based on those pushes, would also end the game with whoever had that final push winning the game. So there's multiple ways you can have a winning here, which all incorporates into that overall strategy. So that's a very high-level overview, but I want to talk about some of the things that I think are important to talk about within this game system to make sure you really, truly are comfortable with making decisions in buying this game, because I think this game is great. I love this game, but I don't think it's for everyone, so let's talk about that. So first off, I want to talk about the hero level. This is a big pro for me. Now, I know that there are different pledge levels in regards to the amount of champions you can get. But when I purchased mine, I bought this in 2020, I think was when it was on Kickstarter. I went with the all-in, which gives me a huge variety of characters. And I think that is a massive bonus to the style of game this is. Now, I am coming from a history of playing games like League of Legends. I played that for many, many years. I quit when there was about 120 different champions. I know there are over 140 champions now currently in League of Legends. But the reason that is so powerful for a game like League of Legends, and again, a game like Guardians of Atlantis, is that there are going to be different champions that are going to fit your type of play style. All of these champions that I have available here, with all their unique decks, all have very different types of ways they play the game and the way they interact with the system. Alternatively, the combinations that you can find when you're playing with different types of hero lineups is very, very interesting. And I love the fact that when you buy this all-in that I bought, it is straight out of the box available to play up to 5 versus 5 with no changes. It's just, you just go, you just grab them, and you can have some really interesting pick and ban phases with all these different types of heroes and champions, giving you some really, really interesting competitive experiences. But there is an alternative con associated to that. These characters have a range in terms of their difficulty scaling. If you look at a player board here, let's just move some of these minions, you'll notice there is a star on the top here. Unfortunately, both heroes I got are 1 stars, but the stars range from 1 to 3, at least in the set that I have, and they are the difficulty in terms of how are you going to be able to utilize their cards. Now, I was maybe a little bit cocky when I played this game. I'm like, okay, I understand it. And I grabbed a 3-star champion within relatively my first early plays, maybe in my 3rd or 4th game. And I was amazed at how more difficult it was to utilize the skills on your cards effectively, because they become very niche, where they want to be used in very specific ways. So while I think that it's incredible that you have this massive variety of heroes available to you to play with, they are also very sometimes can be very difficult to comprehend, to play them effectively, and can get frustrating if you have a poor experience with a hero that just doesn't seem like things are working. You're not actively helping the team. I actually went on Board Game Geek and I checked out one of their threads that kind of talks about it. It was like a tier listing of heroes, because I wanted to see where they ranked the guy that I played that was a 3-star, because I had a horrible experience. I thought the guy was just bad. I couldn't really figure him out as well. And he was rated fairly high. I think he was like a top 10 champion. So it just goes to show you that even though I, thought I was competent enough and understood the system well enough to play this hero, clearly I wasn't grasping what this specific champion does to really utilize its skills to the fullest. The next thing I wanted to talk about is the hero's health and the way combat works. This has been the number one complaint and point of confusion I have had when it comes to playing this game. Every time we play, let's just kind of run this down in terms of an easy system. This guy goes over here. Combat is handled by the playing of these cards. Generally, the red cards usually are the combat cards. Sometimes your yellow cards will have combat cards as well. And they have an attack value. So in this case, let's say Brogan is going to play this red card that says, before the attack, move 2 spaces in a straight line. So he's going to move 2 spaces. And then you can attack an adjacent unit. So he's going to attack this adjacent unit, attacking for 6. Now, I see that my opponent has played that card. I can look at my hand, and if I have a card in my hand, I could discard it like this one to discard, which has 6 shields to match that. And then you also have to consider the minions. I don't want to get too much into the thick of it there, but what I wanted to talk about, the reason I wanted to bring this up is, let's say, for example, I didn't have enough defense to block this. You only have 1 hit point, and it doesn't matter. The number 6 is just the status number you must beat. You must block to prevent this attack going through. But there's no amount I'm not hitting you for 6 points of health. I'm not hitting you for 5 points of health. It's just I'm hitting you, and if you are hit, you're immediately defeated, coming back to your starting zone, and then of course you would lose your health for the base, and then your opponent would collect a bounty from your death, getting some coins, which they can then use to level up, and we'll talk about, again, leveling up here shortly. I wanted to say that this point of contention is so weird because people think, like other kind of skirmish and battle games, that they have a health pool or have health something. So I've had some interesting interactions with people where I explain the rules. In fact, I have printed off a script from Board Game Geek that I read off to people, basically, telling you what to do, and it explains it in here, but it's still something that people have a hard time grasping. So I don't mind that combat personally. I think it's interesting and good, but I just want to make sure people are aware of that system and how it works. Now, let's talk about the combat a little bit more in the way that you're supposed to kind of metagame this system. This game is played in a way where you are supposed to try to learn what your opponent does and the speeds of their cards. Because at some point, you're going to have an opponent who's played several cards down like this, and you've got some of your cards down like this, and you can look and be like, okay, he's used his attack, he's used his yellow, so he's only got a blue and a silver left. So what are the speeds of those cards? What do they do? What is their most likely maneuver going to be for next turn? That's kind of the strategy of this system, where you're going to look at your opponent's cards, but you have to talk to your ally here about that, or any of your allies, depending on the amount of player counts you're playing with, and figuring it out. I love that system, and I love that your opponents, the rulebook is very clear that you have to openly talk. The tabletop talk is very open in the situation. Now, you could talk and try to throw people off and try to use some trickery in that sense. You just can't do it under your breath, which I think is great. So that's the combat system in terms of what I like and didn't like. For the most part, it's very good. Again, the biggest thing is the way the cards interact, and then understanding the hit point system and how that works. One of the things I'm hoping to see with the newest release here is potentially a revised insert. I brought out all of my hero decks because a lot of people complain about the way these inserts work, and I kind of wanted to show mine because I'm actually very proud. I have mine fully sleeved. You'll notice nothing slides around. But normally, let me show you what they normally would look like if you fully sleeved your deck, and don't have the system that I have in place. Let me kind of show you what this does. This is a kind of an off-the-wall review right now. Is you put them in here, and things are kind of, they can slide around. I mean, it's not so bad right now, of course, but that is, you know, it's not the best. Especially if you sleeve your cards. It's fine if you don't sleeve your cards. And I don't think you necessarily need to sleeve your cards. Oh, I missed one. That might have affected it. I don't necessarily think you have to sleeve your cards because of you don't shuffle, really. You just have your 5 cards. But me, I'm a tick shuffler. I shuffle my cards just cause all the time. So that's something that I shuffled for that. But what I wanted to show you guys, what did I do to prevent this? I've talked about this in one of my other, so this is if they don't fix the insert. This might be a completely pointless point of talking about. But what I did is I used this tape that I've talked about in one of my accessory videos that just puts it around the cards, keeps them in place, locks them in place. I'll put a link on Amazon. It's very cheap on Amazon. I think it's like $6 for a whole roll of tape. And it doesn't damage your cards, but it keeps things, as you can see, like this is taped. Like that is taped. So that's pretty nice. So yeah, that's the insert. The insert's pretty shit in terms of overall systems for most people. Oh, Brogan, I forgot. See, he's sliding out already because I put Brogan in a different spot so that he doesn't bother me. Next, I want to talk about the upgrading system. I talked about that. I was mentioning this. I think the leveling up features that this game has is an incredibly cool system. So the way the upgrading works, the level up system works, is you are going to get coins for defeating different types of minions and or heroes. The heroes will be earning you more money the higher level they are, and they also give a pity coin to your allies for, you know, helping you. So they get a coin. So killing opponents is better for your team. Killing minions is just a good way to get money. But there's a easy way they do the leveling. So to go from level 1 to level 2 costs 1 coin. Level 2 to level 3 is 2 coin, etc. So you just add that coin to go to the next level. And the way the level up works is you're going to have your starting hand, as I mentioned, of 3 cards. It's the 5 cards. It's the blue, green, red, and then you have your yellow and silver. Yellow and silver cards do not move. You're just looking at these 3. You'll notice in the top there's a Roman numeral 1. Well, associated with that Roman numeral 1 are going to be other cards of the same type, but of a higher level. So here you'll see that there are 2 Roman level 2s for blue. There's blue, and then also green. So the way the level up works is once you hit level 2, you are going to select one of these card choices. Let's say, for example, we're going to choose a red card because that's usually what people do because it's a combat card. And now I get to choose which of these 2 cards I want to replace my 1 card. The one I don't choose, though, is also going to be benefiting me in another way. So we'll talk about that as well. But what's interesting about this is you're going to have your level 1 card. It does something specific. And you can get a better version of that specific card, or you can veer off into a whole nother avenue of strategy depending on what you think is going to work in this specific situation. I love that the fact it does give you the ability to kind of alter your character's play while still staying within the theme of your character for each game, and gives a lot of more replayability and strategy options based on the combinations you can provide. So when I mentioned, though, that it gives you another option, let's say, for example, though, I decided to pick this long thrust, and I did not pick this one. This card is still going to be used for me, though. At the very bottom of the card is a icon, which is an icon that references stuff in the game. This hourglass means initiative. I take this card, I flip it upside down, and I slide it underneath this initiative track here on my player board. Now that will effectively increase the speed of any card I play by 1, making this 8 become a 9 for the future games. Alternatively, if I did the long thrust, or I upgraded this deadly swipe and took the long thrust, this has a defensive shield on it. So now that'll give me a +1 defense in terms of me getting attacked by opponents. I have a default 1 shield on top of whatever card I may play. So I really like that kind of upgrading system. It's a lot of fun. At one point, you are eventually going to get to a point where you can get your ultimate. That means once you've gone through all your level 2s, then you've upgraded all your level 3 cards. Once all 3 have been upgraded, you then can get a ultimate ability, which is a permanent static ability, which you'll place next to your hero, basically indicating I now have this permanent buff applying to my heroes. I've never actually gotten this to go off. My games have always ended prior to that happening, but I've also not played any long, like, four heroes per team game, which I think would be just incredibly cool. 4 or 5 heroes, I think that'd be so fun. But I haven't gotten a chance to play that yet, so haven't seen any ultimates triggering just yet, at least. So that's it. Let's just kind of go into my final thoughts as we wrap up this Guards of Atlantis review. Guards of Atlantis 2. The thing I can kind of encapsulate is it can be quite a extensive game to learn and to teach, and it's a game that I think the mechanics are fairly, in terms of the rules of how the board works, are fairly simple. But this is a game that's like easy to teach, incredibly difficult to master. I think if you have a player group that is in a situation where competitive gameplay is healthy and encouraged, Guards of Atlantis 2 is a great system to introduce. Now, I will say on top of that, trying to be aware, it is an expensive game and it's an expensive system. And I think to get the most out of this game, you do have to put an investment into it. So just be aware of that. Because again, I think the real excitement of the game comes from the ability to, one, have up to a 10-player game if you wanted to out of the box, but also have the combinations and abilities of all the different types of heroes available to you. I think it's just an incredible system for that. Overall, though, Guards of Atlantis 2 was an incredible experience for me to play. I have enjoyed every aspect of this gameplay, and I encourage people to try it. In fact, this was one of the few games that I played when I went to Dice Tower West, where when I was playing with people that were not part of my group. When I would see that there was an open seat available, I was like, hey, do you guys need a 4th? Yes, we do. Great. And I popped in and was able to just get a game going. It takes about 90 minutes, which is great, in terms of playing with new people. And I really, really have enjoyed my time for it. So I'm very much looking forward to seeing what the new campaign offers in terms of new heroes, any types of rules, clarifications. The rule book is not bad once you've learned it, but when you open it, it's a little bit intimidating in terms of its overall scope, and it's got a lot of text and colors and things happening. But once you've learned it, I love it, and I also do really appreciate that they have a Tome of Mastery, which is a once you feel comfortable with the base game, here are some advanced rules and situations that you can play with, which I think is incredibly cool. It also opens up that secondary map, the reverse side of this board. So we're going to actually, because this is not a prototype, it's been so long since I've reviewed a non-prototype game, we're actually going to give this a rating. Right now we're doing a rating scale from 1 to 10, 10 being the best, and it is a decimal point system. And I'm going to go ahead and give Guards of Atlantis 2 an 8.6. I think it's a very solid system. I think it really plays well at multiple different player counts, which I find a hard thing to do for a lot of different types of games. I think that scaling is incredibly rewarding. I do think, though, that because of the complexity scaling of some of these heroes, it can limit the amount of people I can introduce this to, and it's also sometimes more difficult to find people that are truly looking for that competitive, no luck just pure strategy gameplay system for a lot of player groups. But overall, I really enjoyed Guardians of Atlantis 2, and I recommend it to anyone going forward. So if you have any questions or concerns, please let me know in the comment section down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. Otherwise, my name is Brian, and I will talk to you very soon.